Hello, Matt.
Hey, Andrew.
Today we're going to be talking about a topic that I think kind of affects everybody. Not even kind of, it just does affect everybody. The idea that all of us fall short. I think we can agree that everybody does. Whether it's in a major way or if it's, just something dumb like, oh, I didn't do that thing I wanted to do today or whatever else. Everybody makes mistakes. Like, I know I do. I make mistakes all the time, and especially with somebody like me who has like a lot of anxiety issues, when I make a mistake, I just berate myself for it. Like, I've had interactions with people. At the time, I won't even think about it, but like on the drive home, I'm like, "You're an idiot. Why did you say that? That was so dumb."
Yeah, I think it's funny you brought up how we sometimes in the moment maybe don't, but later on dwell on things. You just question everything, and it can really eat away at you. And it's always at the worst possible times, right?
The heart is the strongest
That's when
muscle.
it all hits, and it's like, man, every conversation I had today absolutely sucked. It's like that's not true, but in the moment, there's nothing to enter to bring that reality to those thoughts. Like you're just stuck with them, and you dwell on them continuously, or at least I do. I know I do.
Yeah. And so there's not really a lot you can do about that. You can try to like have that positive attitude when you mess up. I think the thing we have to focus on is what good can come from any mistakes we made, or like, yeah, I might have said something in a conversation with you that I'm like, man, I sounded super dumb, but like, maybe I learned from that to speak a little bit differently the next time, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, and it's remarkable how good can come from that. It's not happened often, but I've had moments where I was like, "Oh, by the way, that conversation I had with you yesterday, that I just don't know where I was going with that. It didn't make any sense." And the person will turn around and be like, "Oh no, actually, I got a lot out of that." And they'll bring things up, and I'm like, "I said that?" Like, like the things that we harp on and our brain keeps throwing back at us are, the little moments that no one else cares about or even notice. And it's essentially irrelevant. We kind of broke off onto a very finite aspect of what we're talking about, but it
Yeah.
does kind of point out some of what we're going for here. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has their moments where they regret decisions they made or whatever, and I think sometimes it's hard to move past those, or it's hard to think you're not defined by those mistakes. And really, the truth is, everyone has those moments, and everyone has to deal with them in their own way. And you kind of just learn as you go through life. And it's not always easy. And you don't always improve over time. It takes a lot of effort. But everyone's going to make mistakes. And for the most part, people are a lot more understanding than I think we allow ourselves to give other people credit for.
Yeah. And I know it sounds like a cliche kind of to say, like, well, just learn from your mistakes. But, like, I always use the example of, like, my job. I kind of jokingly put forward this, like, prideful confidence, like, I'm the best at what I do, and I'm awesome at this. And I'm pretty much mostly joking. I'm not going to say I'm completely joking, but because I know I'm good at what I do. But
Yes, you are.
anytime someone like is like actually talking to me about how I do what I do, or how I got good at it, it's like, do you know how I got that level of confidence? From an absolute comedy of errors that I have made in the past. Every time I mess something up, I go, okay, we're not doing that again.
Yeah,
And that adds up over time. If you like, you mess something up and you go, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, and you do a little bit better. Oh, now you mess something else up. All right, we're not doing that anymore either.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit better the next time, and it never ends.
each time you're a step closer to doing it right? So, like, I don't, like, I know what you do. I know you are very well versed at what you do. You're very good at it. But I mean, anyone in a position in basically any field or any area of life, you're gonna make mistakes, and it's just how do you move forward through those and grow from them. And usually there's more lessons to be taught than people are willing to. That's not enough on anyone. It's just, I think that's just how our brains work. We tend to dwell on the negative when there's a lot of upside to mistakes, because you now know another way not to do something, or you know sometimes what you thought was a mistake wasn't a mistake, and you now know, you know, maybe this part of it didn't work, but this part was way more successful than I thought, or you know, things like that. And I see that a lot in my industry, just like there's not always just one way to do something right. There's usually 50 ways to do it right, and 100 ways to do it wrong. But sometimes you're gonna pick the 150, but you know, then it becomes 151 that you know don't work. And you just gotta make errors to move forward. This might be not as different from work as I would like, but when I used to shoot competitive archery, and I so incessantly focused on the failed shot when I first started out, so much that it would ruin literally the rest of the day, if not multiple days in a row of shooting. When the only way to be competitive, especially in a field or an area like archery or something along those lines, is you fire a shot. Once you fired it, there's nothing you can do about it. All you can do is better with the next shot. And if you focus on that last shot, you'll never make the next shot. And you just have to move on. You have to forget it happens and just either learn from it, or whatever you need to do to cope with that, get it behind you to move forward.
I guess the basic thing that we're trying to tell you is never let the negative be the only part of when you make a mistake or when you fail. Because there's always going to be I'm not the biggest fan of my former boss, but one thing I can tell you he did right was he always told, like, he used to, when we would have staff meetings, he would, and I would roll my eyes because I always knew he was about to do it whenever he was talking about certain things. He would always bring up a massive mistake that I made once, but it was as an example of, but have you done that since? And I'm like, no. So one thing he always said was, it's like, I will never get on your case for making a mistake because you made a call. Like, what I will do is if you repeat that mistake or don't learn that. And this is, we talked about in previous episodes how when I first started going to church, the idea that, like, the fact that the things I was hearing was just good life advice was something that kept me coming back. Seeing those things reflected in the Bible just reinforced that there is a good message in the Bible, even if you take all spiritual aspects out of it, that it's still just a good message. And that's, for me, that in the Bible, that is what gives it, I don't want to say gives it its authority, but it's what reinforces the authority, I guess.
Well, you can relate it to, you know, just sound
is the
advice.
the fact that it's something that makes sense no matter what. It's not, you better listen to this because God told you to. It's just, this makes sense already.
Yeah.
Without even considering that part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this will be a recurring theme that we go through these topics, but there's so little, if anything, in the Bible that is just, you better do this because you were told to do it. There's always a reason behind it, even if you have to think about it for a little while to think about what the reason is. Like, if anybody has the right to say, because I said so, it's God. But he almost never does that.
Yeah.
It might be presented that way sometimes, even in the Bible, but there's always a reason behind it. It's never for no reason. It's never just because he wants it that way. It's because it's the way that it works best, kind of thing. That's what reinforces the authority of the Bible to me.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I noticed this with the Old Testament quite a bit. Just it's where it's like he'll say something to whomever, and they're like, why? Like just excuses or whatever comes out. And he's like, oh yeah, let me explain. It's like
as if he's rolling his eyes and going, "Oh, this guy. Okay, these humans again."
yeah.
That's what I get. Like this concept of like learning from mistakes and failure and good coming from it is a theme that is repeated so much in the Bible, and I don't think that's a coincidence. Like you see just the people that are just like the worst sinners that become some of the greatest central figures in the Bible. David is a not nice thing. And was called a man after God's own heart. And Solomon asked for, was the wisest man who ever lived. Still messed up at the end. Like,
Yeah. Big time.
like you can do all the good in the world, but you're still gonna mess up no matter who you are. And I think that knowledge and being able to learn from that and knowing that you're never going to be perfect, and to have something to work forward is the message of the stories in the Bible.
Yeah, and I mean, anyone even just glancing at the Bible, I guess it could be confusing at times when, Jesus says things like, be perfect as I am perfect. Sorry, that's KJV. But like, the point of that is you can't be, but when you strive for something, you get closer to it. And sorry to keep bringing back archery analysis, but we had a saying when we were, shooting competitively: aim small, miss small. The smaller the target, the tighter the group, and the closer you get to it. And you may never hit the target perfectly every single time, but the closer you can get to that, the better. And everything gets better from that. And when you aim for perfection, you're going to fall shy of it, but you might get closer than if you aim for okay-ish.
Yeah, and this is something I think is lost a lot on people, and a lot of this ties into personal interpretation of some things in the Bible, which we won't necessarily get too deep into. But I don't always think everything is literally.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like what you just said was saying, I don't think he meant for you, as like you were saying, to be exactly like me, because he knows that's not going to be a thing.
Well, he wouldn't have made us so unique if that was the point.
Yeah, but he's giving you a goal to work toward, even if you're not going to get close.
Yeah.
You're not even going to get in. I was thinking of dumb football metaphor.
Go for it.
I was going to say, you're not even going to get in field goal range. It's something to work toward. And that's not a bad goal to work toward. I mean, there are some things that are controversial in the Bible, and I don't deny that. But I haven't read them as much as you have, I'm sure, but I don't think that there's anything that Jesus says in any of the Gospels that is particularly, like there's any two ways about it as far as whether it's a good thing or not.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
No, So
Now, there are things that are said in, like, the epistles and stuff like that. I'm talking about Jesus' specific words.
Yeah. In the Bible, I think one of the things that kind of supports its authority is that it doesn't go back on what it says. It doesn't contradict itself. And there are a lot of people that would argue that it does, but typically it comes down to interpretation of what you're reading. And that's why, again, just another reason why beliefs and how you choose to interpret the Bible is so personal. I mean, it's there for everyone, and everyone's going to think differently. That's kind of the whole point. And no matter what, it's useful, helpful knowledge that I think at its core is just designed to give you a relationship with God.
And there's, like you said, there's a bunch of different interpretations. You and I have different interpretations of the same thing. And as we always will, no matter what, no matter how much we talk about stuff.
And that's fine.
I don't, yeah. And there's not really, I don't want to say there's no wrong interpretations, but if you are interpreting the Bible in a way that is honoring God and working toward, I mean, if you were to sum up, this is an extreme oversimplification, but if you were to sum up Jesus' message while he was on earth, it was, be nice to each other. And if you're using your interpretations of the Bible, of the New Testament, of whatever, to that end, then that's a pretty good
Yeah.
interpretation as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you're using it to hurt other people, then that's what I would call a wrong.
And the funny thing is, people who think they're closest to, the most wise, they often are using it that way. And it's funny because the Bible talks about different types of, Christians or people who claim to believe, and there are, warm, strong Christians who are strong in their faith, but cold Christians who aren't active in their faith, and then there's lukewarm. And the Bible refers to lukewarm Christians as being the worst, essentially. And because I think often the way we see that is these would be people that feel like they know all there is to know. They have this great relationship with God, whether that's true or real or not, is debatable. And they then arm the words of God to then go and attack people they see as lesser. And I think that's something that Christian church, I would love to see more churches focusing on pointing that out and calling it what it is and not supporting it. Because I know, me personally, like, as someone who grew up in the Christian church and knows kind of how to interact with different groups within the realm of churches, despite knowing how to interact with these people sometimes, like, I feel like I'm being attacked. And it's like, I just don't see how you further the gospel and the point of Jesus' teaching. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant on modern day problems in the church, but I just, as an outsider, like, if I was somebody who has never experienced church and that's the first intro I have to it, yeah, big turn off.
Well, I mean, this is where I come from, and in some ways I still am coming from, where I had such a negative view of church in general because the stuff that I saw was so negative. And and my pastor actually said, I can't remember exactly what the context was, but he basically said, every single person in this room, there's something in this book that you don't like. And, like, that's gonna be a thing. There's gonna be stuff you don't like. There's still stuff I don't like. I mean, I've been a Christian for, I don't even know how long now. I can't put a date to it. 2 years? Year and a half, something like that. I don't know. The point is, like, it's gonna be a journey. There's gonna be stuff that, like, there's still stuff I'm still working on reconciling in my head. Like, there's stuff that I can't reconcile with the reality of what's in front of me. And that's what leads me to different interpretations, and that brings me closer to God.
Yeah.
I wish I could explain what I feel better sometimes, but
It's all a journey. Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's just these things that are in the Bible, like, they have different meanings to different people, and you really have to accept that. Something that is super important to you could be not super important to somebody else, or something they're still figuring out. I don't know what my point is. I keep losing it as I'm talking.
You're fine. I think we're both pretty tired, but I think what we were kind of going for here is everyone has problems, deal with them all the time, and the goal is to move forward through them, learn from them, grow from them, and that's not always easy. And it's basically every part of life. I actually I was watching this video, and I'm not exactly sure. I think it was the kids of this family, and these kids grew up in this environment where every time they came home from school at dinner, their dad would ask them, "What did you mess up today? Like, tell me about a mistake that happened today." And it just turned the topic on its head. Like, every mistake's an opportunity to learn, and you can't avoid mistakes. They're going to happen. I don't care what kind of perfectionist you think you are. And honestly, I used to think being a perfectionist was, the ultimate level of achievement in life. Like, you hold yourself to such a high standard, but really you get in your own way at that point because you fail to see the lessons that you learned in every circumstance you come across. You just blame yourself for problems that you could be growing from. And really that's the goal in religious walk, and that's your goal in your business and your relationships and everything. It's just to continually grow and become a better version of yourself.
And I guess the takeaway that I would want to get from this is from like both ends, from people who are unsure or don't believe at all, and then also from people who have been in the church their whole life. As like you said, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, everyone does. But learning from those things and reorienting yourself and doing better is something that brings you closer to Jesus. Like, it's, even if you don't believe in any of this, understand that that is a central theme of the whole Bible. Not the central theme, but a central theme. That is a central theme of the whole Bible, and those are the things I would urge people to look at, is things like that are just completely a part of life, but that are reflected so much in the Bible. Those are the things that I look for. And like we were saying before, there are things in the Bible to this day that I don't like, and I don't know how to reconcile how I feel. Like, I don't like some things, the way that people use them to treat other people, the way that people use them to force their beliefs on other people, the ways that all kinds of things. Like, there are just things like that. And some of them I've figured out in my head, and others I haven't.
Yeah.
But you can't. I truly, like, please hear me on this. I understand how people from the outside looking in feel about those things. And, like, take it from someone who saw all that and is still in this position now talking to you here. Like, I cannot deny the things that are there